Hello and welcome to the Potomac Local podcast. I am your host, Uriah Kaiser, publisher and chief bottle washer at Potomac Local News at potomaclocal.com. We're talking about local issues as we always do on this podcast. And joining us today on the podcast is Oliva Briscoe. She is our newest writer at Potomac Local, our newest reporter, and she's already dug in deep to local issues. Her first story ran this week about the plastics issue. The plastics are piling up at the Prince William County Landfill. I'll say that 3 times fast. We will get into that story. We will talk about her reporting and the effort that went into that story. It was a very good story, and it's doing very well on our website. But first, I want to bring Oliva onto the podcast and say, welcome.
Hi, Uriah.
Thank you for coming. Absolutely. And thank you for your work so far, working with us in your reporting here at Potomac Local. So before we get into all of that, I do want to just get a sense of who you are and why you wanted to come and play on our team, play in our sandbox, if you will. We're all about local at Potomac Local. We're about local news in Manassas, Prince William County, and Stafford. So first of all, you've got roots here in the community, right? Talk to me about
those. Yes, absolutely. So I was born in Arlington, but when I was 1 or 2, my parents moved to Manassas, and I've basically been here then ever since. I'm 27 now, so I have 25 years in Manassas, but basically my entire life. And my dad, Mark Avaney, is a local city councilman. He's also worked for the county for probably the past 10 years. So he's always been highly involved in the community. Growing up, my mom and dad were always really big on just community involvement. We did the lawn concerts on the Manassas Museum lawn. And I just remember, all the Christmas parades and everything. I did 4-H. So just a lot of just happy memories in the community. But I also have a lot of the, kind of the nosy side too. I love knowing what's going on in the community. Whenever there's cop cars, I always want to know. And because my dad's a city councilman, I've always been able to be like, hey, Dad, what's being built here? What's going on down here? Now that I'm a wife and a mother, I definitely have a invested interest in our community because I want to see it flourish. I love this area. My husband is a local small businessman, so he's also invested in the community. And I love Manassas. I love Prince William County. I've had some political experience working with Marty Noe and Bob Marshall and Ken Cuccinelli. So I've seen a lot of the area doing door knocking and putting up signs.
So you've been around, you've knocked some doors, you've met some people, sort of you have the layout of the land. And I think it's also important to point out that your father is Mark Avaney. He's a councilman in the city of Manassas. It's also important to point out that that is not your beat, right? You are going to cover the county for us, county, as well as some feature stories. So we will not have you covering your dad, which should make the journalism gods happy.
Exactly.
Sure that we do that. But, it's great that you have the curiosity about what is going on. You talk about the cop cars. You want to know where are they going? Why are they there? It's kind of the bread and butter, I've always said, of local news. So that's fantastic that you have that passion and that curiosity. And I'm excited that you're going to bring that to the table to serve our readers and our viewers here on PotomacLocal.com. You've really just gotten started here, but I gave you a pretty big assignment, right? I gave you this enterprise story about plastics. It was a big story earlier in the year when China said, you know what? We're not going to take your plastic for recycling anymore. And that left a lot of people asking questions, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So nationally, internationally, really, the news about China. So basically all of our plastic, when we recycle it, it's usually sent to a recycling center, but then they ship it. This is all new to me. I didn't realize this, but then they ship it to a manufacturer who does something with it. And a lot of times it can be pretty lucrative because you're basically reselling stuff that then is made into other things. And China used to be a pretty big top consumer of all of our plastic. But they recently, and this is the big news, said, no, we're not doing it anymore because the resale value was just really low. And this is, again, all over NPR, Washington Post, you can find it. I think the announcement was made, I believe, back in January.
So I have
So
this plastic, I have this bottle here, right? And when I
yes.
toss it in, when I'm done drinking this wonderful beverage, I toss it into the recycled can, right? And then that goes to sort of walk me through what happens next.
Yes. So if you live in the city of Manassas, it will go to I just wrote the article, but the names are floating on my head. I believe it's American Disposal Service.
That sounds about right.
The city has a different place. The Prince William County has a different place, but it goes to what's called basically like a waste. You filter your trash. They sort it, then they figure out what to do with it. They're not the ones who make it into products, though. They then send it to a manufacturer once it's been sorted, and anything that's contaminated, like if you toss a ketchup bottle with crusty old gross ketchup, that's ruined, and it ruins. The contamination rate is actually pretty high. So a lot of stuff that was sent to China was contaminated, and that was another reason they didn't want our stuff anymore, because we were sending them so much contaminated stuff. But anyway, so our stuff is sent to a recycling center, and then they sort it and send it to a manufacturer. The problem is now some of the manufacturers, and every place has a different manufacturer. It's not like everyone was sending their stuff to China. The Manassas Center was not sending plastic to China. I believe their paper still goes to China, though. So for now, China is still taking our paper, which is good. But so that plastic bottle could become, an Aldi reusable bag someday. But it's not going to be going to China anymore.
So China said, no, we're not going to take your, not just contaminated plastic, not just those ketchup bottles that
exactly,
did not get walked out. They said no more of really any of it, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And go ahead.
Oh no, you're good.
That got us thinking, right? So what's the impact locally? And that's kind of where you came in and you started asking questions that really nobody else was asking, right? What's the local impact if China says, no, we're not taking this stuff, and this is where this stuff normally goes? Then it got us thinking, well, what's happening to it, right?
Yes. So I spoke to Deborah Campbell, and she works with the Prince William County, and basically the county has a couple different contractors. So there's a bunch of different trash trucks out on the street, or recycling trucks, and they're not all the same, whereas the city only has one. So depending on who the county's trash man or recycling man is using, they might be shipping their stuff to China, and that is affecting the local landfill in Prince William County, because they have seen about a 17% increase just in the last fiscal year in plastic, or things that recycling centers can't ship off anymore. And that's a pretty significant increase.
So the recycling center, they would normally take it in, but now since China's not taking it, it winds up in the municipal landfill.
That's the assumption. I mean, they're not going to say that is why, but it definitely is. It's coincidental enough that we're pretty sure that's probably why it's happening. Because 17% in just this past fiscal year alone. Scott McDonald, actually, who's also with the county, he was basically saying that just in the last fiscal year, it was enough of an increase that it was noticeable. And they don't want to exactly point to China, I don't think, but it's pretty fair to, I think, to assume the link is so close in the timeline. It's probably related to the China ban. And and we're basically, they're saying don't panic, but I mean, be aware of it.
So this is plastic that is going to pile up, right? It's not going to China, and recycling companies that normally took it before aren't taking it now. What's going to happen? Is it just going to kind of collect dust, pile up even more?
I mean, we need to figure out what to do with it. That's kind of the problem. My research from just international stuff, other countries don't want it. Other countries in Asia, I think, are starting to get some of China's plastic that they're not taking. But essentially, I mean, plastic takes a very long time to break down. It's not like cardboard, or it's not like, it lives forever, essentially, which is what makes it so useful in our products. And it's really been life-changing for our society, because we love plastic. It's amazing. I love my meat wrapped in my plastic. I love that. But it's horrible for the earth. So we do need a solution, because basically it sounds like we're going to start seeing repercussions. And when things can't be taken anymore by other countries, when landfills are starting to overflow, we're going to see it start piling up just in our neighborhoods. I mean, maybe not in the next year or two, but if we can't find a solution, it's going to start happening.
Through your reporting on this story, did you get a sense that the landfill did not really want to come out and sort of beat their drums and say, yes, this is what's going on. Yes, this is because of China, because there is a fear there that if we start saying the plastic is going to sit here, it's not going to move, and eventually it's not going to get recycled sort of anytime soon. There's a fear that people will stop recycling plastic altogether.
Yes, I think that's actually a very valid point, because you don't want people to stop recycling. And if we start saying, oh, well, plastic isn't going to, oh, well, just don't recycle. And that's not true. If you live in the city of Manassas, plastic is still being sent to a manufacturer. I couldn't figure out where it's going, but it's not going to China. So if you live in the city of Manassas, your plastic is still getting recycled. So yeah, I think it's still good to recycle. And they definitely probably don't want to cause mass hysteria, and people don't want to just be chucking their plastic bottles in the trash. But it is a problem. And I think that a lot of countries even were kind of blindsided by China's ban. And everyone's kind of, if anything that's good out of this, everyone is kind of trying to come together and figure out, well, what do we do? What do we do now? Because we don't want stuff just piling up. And if China's going to stop taking our plastic, we need to come to a solution. So I do think that, recycling is still, there's a motto, keep calm and recycle on, that Deborah Campbell said. And so, yes, keep recycling, but just recycle properly.
And
go ahead.
You did some reporting on that, right? Through your reporting, yes. You actually talked to Deborah, and there's some Facebook groups that are dedicated to the I guess proper recycling, proper techniques. Talk about some of that stuff that you learned through your reporting.
Yes, so I had no idea. I've actually been guilty of this. I've thrown away plastic grocery bags either in the trash or in the recycling bin. And I've definitely recycled things that have had some ketchup on them. And I'm learning now, no, because if you do that, if you throw in a tin can that has some soup left in it, that will ruin, it essentially does, it contaminates all of it. So make sure everything you recycle is clean and dry. That's the other thing. Don't throw a full water bottle in the recycling. Make sure it's empty. But also trash bags are a huge problem. Nancy Hessler-Spruill in Manassas at the American Disposal Service in Manassas said they have to stop their machines 3 to 4 times a day to cut plastic bags out. And that's a huge waste of time and resources. And it's probably not easy work, I assume, if you're cutting grocery bags out. So a lot of grocery stores, I think if you walk into Giant or Harris Teeter, they have bins where you can put your grocery bags in them and they'll recycle them properly for you. So that's a big thing you can do. Also, Scott McDonald mentioned seeing a baby diaper, a full baby diaper in the recycling, which that shouldn't be in there. And also, like, the full one, we need to be better at this. And I think that, it's just something that we have to learn. There's a Facebook group Nancy recommended called Think Before You Throw. And it's all about how to recycle properly. And it's great. I joined it. It's a group. She posts pretty regularly on there, and it's very interactive. So, there's definitely resources. The Prince William County has a lot of good information as well. Deborah Campbell sent me some great handouts. Just that, the community can learn and be educated, and just recycling properly is a huge thing.
And we should obviously point out that you covered a lot of this ground in your story on PotomacLocal.com, which you can read by going to PotomacLocal.com and subscribing as a paid subscriber to our premium content here. We certainly appreciate your support for doing that and becoming a subscriber on Potomac Local, so you can read this type of local reporting, these important issues. And of course, your subscription makes it possible to do even more reporting like this. So to sort of recap this, what we learned is that the alarm bells on recycled plastic, they are ringing, right? We're not to a critical point yet, but it is something that people are talking about, and that is certainly why we went with this story. And there are ways to best recycle, right? So we don't gum up the works at these processing facilities like the one in Manassas. So I think it was very interesting to learn that you said a lot of what we toss in for what we think should be recycled doesn't end up getting recycled just because there's a little bit of ketchup still in that bottle, right?
Yeah.
So very, very important reporting. Very good work on that story. Olivia Briscoe, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join us here on the Potomac Local podcast. I'm your host, Uriah Kaiser. We'll see you next time.